Okay, Daniel chapter 5. We finished 4 3 weeks ago. And yeah, remember, 4 was written by Nebuchadnezzar himself. It wasn't written by Daniel, it was written by Nebuchadnezzar. And his final parting saying was in 4 was, "Now I, Nebuchadnezzar, praise and exalt and glorify the King of heaven, because everything he does is right and all his ways are just. And those who walk in pride, he is able to humble."
That's an understatement for him.
I would say that was a pretty bland statement, considering he just spent 7 years under a tree eating grass. So he was humble. And since about the only time we heard anything about Nebuchadnezzar and Daniel was when he was messing up and God was using him for an example. Now we don't hear anything else about him until his son takes over, Belshazzar. Belshazzar is his son, and he took over after Nebuchadnezzar died. That one doesn't tell us how long Nebuchadnezzar lived after he was humbled. But we can assume that if he had messed up again, we'd have heard about it. So, somebody read 5, 1 through 4.
King Belshazzar gave a great banquet for 1,000 of his nobles and drank wine with them. While Belshazzar was drinking his wine, he gave orders to bring in the gold and silver gauntlets that Nebuchadnezzar, his father, had taken from the temple in Jerusalem, so that the king and his nobles, his wife, and his concubines might drink from them. So they brought in the gold gauntlets that had been taken from the temple of God in Jerusalem, and the king and his nobles, his wife, and his concubines drank from them. As they drank the wine, they praised the gods of gold and silver, of bronze, iron, wood, and stone.
Okay, so his son takes over. About 8 years after his son takes over, he messes up big time. So if you got your guide there, study got outline, you could, we're probably not gonna get done with that this week, so you can finish it at home. But I just handed you out both the answers and the guide today. How many guests did he invite?
1,000.
But they weren't just guests. They were nobles. He only invited the best of the best. He only invited the rich, the influential. He only invited the people that could maybe benefit him in some way as he ruled. Okay? We don't see that today, though, do we?
No.
And I remember about 4 or 5 years ago, the guy that owned Ohana's opened Mumu's. And it was in the paper that Mumu's would be open on a certain day. Well, Janice and I had gone to Ohana's 2 or 3 times a month. And we thought, well, we'll go to Mumu's on the opening night. So we showed up, got to the door, and we didn't have an invitation. And I said, you need an invitation? Well, he only invited his friends tonight. I'm not sure what is in Mumu's, and I'm probably never going to know what's in Mumu's.
Expensive steak.
But he only invited the important people in French Lick. He only invited people that he thought were significant. And some people do that today. They do it. Anybody, any of you guys ever been in Mumu's?
Yeah.
How was it?
It's good, but not worth what it costs.
Not for what it cost?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard it's real
Is
expensive.
that where they have fancy water glasses?
Yeah.
They have what?
Real fancy water glasses.
What a fancy water
glasses.
But I go to El Compadres, we go to El Compadres 4 or 5 times a month. And that guy just mothers us. I mean, he just checks on us 4 or 5 times. We could get out of there somewhere between $20 and $30. I don't think Moose has any single entree under $20. So,
More like that.
and the guy just treats us like we're kings. So, that's where we go. Okay, so there's 1,000 and they were nobles. All right. How about their behavior at this banquet? 1B.
Very immoral.
And it was kind of a drunken. Okay.
I don't have those exact words you have on here on my Bible, but.
The commentators, now, I'm not beating anybody up that drinks a glass of wine, okay? I'm not. I have to confess to you that I make wine. I don't drink a lot of it, but I give a lot of it away. But these guys, the commentators who researched this, they said that it was a wicked and it was immorality and a drunken orgy, is how it was described, how they described it. So there was it got out of hand. The people who invited, they got out of hand, right? And in 2, how would you describe verse 2? While Belshazzar was drinking his wine, he gave orders to bring the gold and silver goblets that Nebuchadnezzar his father had taken from the temple in Jerusalem, so that the king and his nobles, his wives, concubines, might drink from them. Okay, what would be the problem with that?
With him getting, because they were dedicated to the Lord.
They were gods. They were gods. There's 4 or 5 times in the Bible when the armies would go into an area and they would conquer the area. What did God say about the gold and the silver in the area? You know, the conqueror always got the spoils. Always got to take all the valuable stuff. Always got to take the sheep and the cattle and the camels and whatever. But what did God say about the gold and the silver? Every
were
time
his.
He said the same thing. It
Is
is
his,
mine.
yeah.
It comes to the temple. You know? There's a big push now for people to buy gold. And gold has really been getting more valuable every year, right? Yes, no?
I wouldn't know.
You would?
We don't have
Yeah, well, it's between $2,000 and $3,000 an ounce now. So it's more valuable, right?
The same gold.
You're afraid to answer, aren't you? You think it's a trick question. Well, it is. It's a trick question. No, it's not. If you go back to 1900 and you look at the price of gold and you look at the price of eggs, you could buy 15 and a half dozen of eggs for $1. Now, how much are eggs? They're a quarter a piece. And back then they were like, you could get several for a penny. Hey, now the price of eggs if you look at the price of eggs and how much they've doubled, and you look at the price of the gold and how much it's doubled, it's not any more valuable than it was in 1900. It's just a dollar's not worth anything. So they're trying to sell this gold, they're trying to push this gold, and they're trying to say gold is the best way. Well, number one, every ounce of gold you buy is reported to the government. They know where it is at all times. And if they want to come get it, they'll just come get it. And number two, it's not worth any more than it was in 1900. The dollar's just worth nothing. Dozen eggs today is $3. 15 and a half dozen in 1900, $1. The inflation has been huge since 1900 in 2026. And it was really facilitated by COVID-19. Everybody took advantage of it. Okay? But the price of gold today isn't worth any more than it was in 1900. The dollar's just worth a whole lot less. The gold and the silver belongs to God. We can hoard it if we want to. And he was hoarding it. Now, God had set that aside for what reason? In 70 years, he was going to bring them back home, and what were they going to bring home with them? Why were they going back home?
To rebuild the temple.
Rebuild the temple. What were they going to need?
Gold, money,
All
something,
the
yeah.
stuff that was in the temple originally. So this guy didn't just show his greed. This guy wasn't just arrogant. This guy defiled the sacred things of God in the temple. And Nebuchadnezzar knew that. Now, he either didn't tell his kid that, or the kid didn't care.
He knew it or he wouldn't have called for it.
Huh?
He knew it or he wouldn't have said, go get him.
Yeah. And why did he do it?
Show off.
Huh?
Show off.
To show off. He wanted to show off to all the nobles that he had all this gold and silver and all these sacred things from the temple in Jerusalem. And God, that was the last straw for him. All right. So the servants brought him in, and the guests drank from the cups in God's temple. Verse 4. What really was the last straw in verse 4?
They praised other gods. They praised the gods of gold and silver and bronze and wood, iron and stone.
They toasted their gods with Jerusalem's sacred vessels. And God said, enough. So, what happens next? Somebody read 5 through 8.
Suddenly the fingers of a human hand appeared and wrote on the plaster of the wall near the lampstand in the royal palace. The king watched the hand as it wrote. His face turned pale, and he was so frightened that his legs became weak, and his knees were knocking. The king summoned the enchanters, astrologers, and diviners. Then he said to these wise men of Babylon, whoever reads this writing and tells me what it means will be clothed in purple and have a gold chain placed around his neck, and he will be made the third highest ruler in the kingdom. Then all the king's wise men came in, but they could not read the writing or tell the king what it meant.
Okay. So, immediately after they started toasting their gods, what happened?
God showed up.
Yeah. You've heard the saying, the writing's on the wall. Have you heard that? Do you know what that means if you say that to somebody? The writing's on the wall. Jennifer, the writing's on the wall. What's it mean? John, the writing's on the wall. What's it mean?
Means God's telling you something.
I'm trying to tell you to be careful because you're going too far. Well, the writing's on the wall. This hand comes up. Now, what would your response be? You're sitting there at the banquet, you're pretty much drunk. The hand appears and starts writing words on the wall. Just as you finish exalting your gods, just as you finish lifting up your gods, and hail to Baal, and you're drinking from Jehovah's glasses, and his finger, his hand starts writing on the wall. What would your response be?
Oh, you'd sober up pretty quick there.
Be going home. Be running for my house.
Heading for the door. Well, that'd be good. Be good. Good. Anybody else? What'd you say?
I said they would sober up pretty quick there.
Yeah, they did. It said their response was a crippling fear descended upon the king and his guests. A crippling fear. Why do you think that they responded that way? I mean, it'd be creepy. You'd be kind of astounded, but a crippling fear.
I think they knew they messed up.
Yeah.
So we can assume, now we're assuming because the Bible doesn't say it, okay, but we can assume that they probably knew better. We can assume that Nebuchadnezzar had probably taught his son that was sacred and set apart, because he never did it. And all of a sudden, the writing, the figure, and the hand, and all of a sudden, it's like, oh man, I have messed up. So, what's a king's response? In 7.
He summoned people he thought that could, the wise men, the astrologers, the diviners, those that he thought could interpret everything.
Okay. Now, how many times do these guys have to make this mistake?
Well, one more.
I mean, every time they go get the astrologers, they go get the soothsayers, they go get the fortune tellers, they go get these guys and they bring them all in, and what's the result? God shows him that they're worthless. That they are worshiping gods that cannot respond, gods that are made out of wood, gods that are made out of gold and silver. And how many times did it happen now in 5 chapters? Over and over again, and here comes Daniel, and Daniel comes in and shows them that there's one God. His name's Jehovah, and he is the only one with the answers. Their sticks and their statues and their gold is worthless. What happens? Have you ever known anybody that bought silver and gold and kept it in a safe somewhere? I've known a few people that really have hoarded quite a bit of gold. I don't know how you would spend it today. I guess you'd have to go sell it to somebody and use money. But what kind of happens to them when they start possessing large amounts of gold?
Get nervous. Get nervous.
They get fearful, they get nervous. Because if they come into my house and steal all the money in my house, it'll be pocket change. I mean, I don't keep a lot of cash in the house. But people who buy gold and silver and hide it in their house, or they usually buy a safe to put it in. And sometimes Sometimes I had a brother-in-law that did, and he would show it to me every time we come to visit. And he actually built a vault in the basement with a door that looked like a book cabinet. And you open the book cabinet, and then there was a door with a safe in it. And he'd open that, and he'd go in, and he'd say, "Look what I bought last week." And I'd go in there, "Yeah, okay. Or when are we gonna eat?" I can care less. I mean, if you came into my house and bought the most expensive thing I've got, you'd buy a over and under shot. You get an over and under shotgun and a TV. That's what you get. And I would have them replaced by tomorrow afternoon. It wouldn't be any big deal to me. I mean, material things for Christians should not be the reason they live their lives. They should not be it should not be something that you live for or live by. It's okay to have it, but every time I'd go to Rick's house, he'd take me to the basement. And he'd show them to me, and he'd be grinning, and I'd be, "Oh, that's nice, Rick. When are we gonna eat?" Are we gonna do those ribs or not? You know, for me, it didn't mean anything.
I was excited and took somebody to the basement to show them my sink. I got a brand new sink, and I was showing them because it's for canning and stuff, and I was so happy with my sink.
Yeah, I got a lot of canning stuff. I got a lot of stuff, but nothing anybody really wants to take, because if they steal my canning stuff, they're going to have to go to work. I mean, it's a lot of work canning. You first of all, you're going to have to plant a garden. You can't go buy tomatoes and can them and make any money. You got to raise your own. You got to pick them. You got to process them. You got to put them in jars, and you got to store them in the basement. It's a lot of. Nobody's going to steal my canner. They're just not going to do it. They might steal my TV, and they might steal my shotgun.
I was just saying, depends on who it is. I may steal your canner.
I'm going for it already put up jars.
I was gonna say, we'll go to the stuff that's already canned.
But there's coming a day when if you got a basement full of food, you're going to be the richest guy in town. And I wouldn't be broadcasting it today, but that day is coming pretty soon.
I got a garden full of yellow squash. If anybody needs some, come and get it.
I was checking the other day because my zucchini's coming on, and I always make zucchini milk. That's the first thing I can in the summer. You grind it up so it's a real thick liquid. You put it in a pint fruit jar. You run it through the canner, and you store it. And 1 pint makes 2 loaves of bread. Okay? Need a little flour, need some eggs. Throw in some raisins if you want to, and some nuts.
All right, I need that recipe because my freezer's full of stuff and I can't get any more zucchini in there. So I need to can some of that. So you send me that and let me know.
I got the recipe. I gave it to Terry.
Okay, perfect.
So you make this zucchini milk, and you dump it out. You put some flour and some eggs and whatever you want to sweeten it up. And you make 2 loaves of zucchini bread in February. I was checking the other day. I have no idea why I planted zucchini this year. I've got 10 years worth of zucchini milk in the basement. But one day I may be giving it to you guys. We may be bartering. John may be doing some work for me, and I may be giving him food when it's over. We're going to be taking care of each other. Some of us are going to have a basement full of food, and some of us are going to have other things to offer, and we're going to have our own little Amish community. Only it's not going to be Amish. Okay. At least you get the example from Joseph. what do I mean by that? Joseph's in Egypt.
He took care of,
Knew the famine was
yeah, as I say, he
coming.
took care of, he made sure things were stored up and people got things, and he bartered. You know, if they didn't have money, they had land, they had themselves, they, you know, they gave what they could to have the food, and Joseph made sure everybody had food.
Yep. Pharaoh had a dream, 7 years of plenty, 7 years of poverty. The tribulation's gonna be 7 years. Okay, we're living in the land, we're living in the time of plenty right now. And what did Joseph do? He built silos, he built places to store the grain. He put all the excess in, and then when the 7 years of drought came, he bought the world for food. People came in, they gave him his money. They came back and said, we don't have any more money, so they signed over their land to him. And then they came in and they signed themselves over to him to be Pharaoh's servants. And with that grain that he saved up during the 7 years of plenty, he was able to buy the world. Well, we need as Christians to be prepared. We need to know the scriptures, we need to see the signs of the times, and we need to be prepared. And when it's all said and done, and when it's all over with, a pot of beans at my house will probably feed 50 people. And we'll just keep dipping it out, and we'll just keep eating it. Do you think that miracle on the mountain was just for them? No, it wasn't. I don't have time to give you some examples this morning, but I was at a wedding once. Good friend of mine. And they didn't have any money. They were poor as Job's turkey. They had 2 trays of lunch meat, and they had 2 trays of cheese, and they had a tray of vegetables. 200 people showed up. They asked me to give the blessing. I said, Lord, multiply our blessings tonight, and let there be enough for all. That was part of the prayer. I told my kids, we'll eat on the way home after this is over. Don't get one. Oh, great man of faith. Really. I was younger. But then I'm sitting there looking, and a line went down, and then people started going back for seconds. And I walked in the kitchen, and the trays were still there. So I told the kids, go ahead and get something to eat, and then I got something to eat, and then people were going back for thirds. And while we were cleaning up, they were divvying up what was left to take home with them. His mom, his dad, his grandma, his grandpa, they were divvying up what the leftovers to take home with them. There wasn't that much food there. But God is the same yesterday, today, and forever, and He did not want Scott and Gina to be embarrassed by the food running out. And He did the same thing He did at the wedding in Judah or the 5,000 on the side of the hill. He multiplied the food, didn't He?
He did. He still does it.
Huh?
He still does it.
Still does. She can tell you about hers next week. We got. She's got a testimony about the exact same thing. So we'll pick up right there, and we'll finish that, and I got a new handout for you when we go.